Hello and welcome back to our final in this month's series of uncommon instruments. So far then we have had the Northumbrian pipes, we have had the Swedish nyckelharpa, which is a keyed harp, we have had the crumhorn, and this week we're carrying on from the crumhorn, and actually in a way the Northumbrian pipes, the crumhorn and this week's instrument are actually quite closely linked. They're all reeded and they all have they're all part of that sort of chanter, bellow blown kind of thing, as it were. Some of them are bellows externally and some of them are internal bellows, our lungs. So this week again it's Sarah, because she is all things sort of medieval Renaissance instruments. And this week it's actually the cornamuse, spelt with an A, C-O-R-N-A-M-U-S-E, not to be confused with the cornemuse, C-O-R-N-E-M-U-S-E, which is French for bagpipe. So when you Google that, you will get lots and lots of bagpipes coming up, which are, as I say, quite similar to the cornemuse with an A. So then, it's one of my favourite instruments of medieval time. It's got a much nicer sound to the crumhorn that we had last week. Hopefully you'll agree. Let me know what you think. But here we go. It's a medieval instrument. It carries on a little bit from the crumhorn, and here's Sarah to tell you more about it.
They are really quite primitive instruments, in terms of, if you look, you've got two keys there. You compare that with the number of keys you'd have on something like a clarinet or an oboe. So basically what the keys do, on something like an oboe or a clarinet or a bassoon, you've got a lot more holes and you've got a whole range of keys allowing you to cover and uncover those holes. So basically you go from your 8 finger and your 9 finger and thumb holes to having a lot more that are operated by keys. Okay, yeah, so I don't play this and I'm not even going to attempt to, but you can see on the Northumbrian pipes, which is a slightly later instrument, you've got several more keys and each one covers and uncovers a different hole. And really what it shows is the development of instruments. So for example, I haven't got here to show you, but in terms of the development of the oboe, if you would go from the shawm, which would have a very similar arrangement to the crumhorn and the cornemuse, to the Baroque oboe, which has a few keys, to the modern oboe that has a lot of keys. It's two things. It's the development of the understanding of how sound works, but also the technology to actually be able to put these in. A lot of in the time of the Renaissance, probably a lot of instruments wouldn't even have these, because obviously the craftsmanship required for that would make the instrument quite a lot more expensive.
And similarly, earlier pipes, as you'll have seen if you've watched the Northumbrian small pipes episode of these uncommon instruments, you'll have seen me talk about that a little bit, and the fact that the chanter on a Northumbrian pipe started off exactly the same way without keys, and it's only as they developed that they got more keys. And I suppose it's like everything, you can put as much hardware as you want on it. It's just a case of whether or not you can weight lift the instrument. And it gets to the stage where there's not enough fingers on the hand to access all the keys you're throwing on it.
Yes, exactly. Yes, and in a way though, it's kind of, you gain something, you lose something. So you gain range as these instruments develop in complexity. You gain range, but you lose, I suppose, what you might call playability. And that's why, as we go sort of from the Renaissance into the Baroque, music becomes much less of a participation, and you really see much more development of professional music, because the instruments are getting more complex, which means the music is getting more complex and harder to play. So if you look at, say, a popular Renaissance composer like Tielman Cesato, you know, a lot of people would have been able to pick up and play his music. You look at a popular early Baroque composer like Antonio Vivaldi, no, your average person in the street is probably not going to be able to pick up a Vivaldi concerto and play it.
Yes, yes. Well, no, as it were.
On the cornamuse, I'm going to play a piece called Quatre Branles. Branles. I'm not quite sure what that means, but it's another dance piece, and it lends itself to the more sort of subtle tone of the cornamuse.